Welcome to Uniquely Loved, a celebration of authenticity and divine inspiration. We are encouraged to be our own unique, authentic selves. Join me, Tech Witch Niki, as we discuss spiritual gifts and skills we can develop and enhance, speak with amazing people using their skills in a variety of ways, and explore the different ways to connect to the wonders of the universe. Hello, my loves. I am happy to introduce to you MK Yang. She is an artist, an entrepreneur, and she uses the transformative work of photography, spiritual healing, life coaching, and sound healing. Her work focuses on promoting and practicing the art of healing holistically, self healing in particular. MK, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you, Nikki. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, your website is absolutely beautiful and your whole practice and everything. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah. Thank you so much for your compliment on my website. It, for a long time, I feel like as an artist, every piece of art that I create or just just becomes who I am because then it ties into what I do as well, where everything just kind of flow. And so yeah, so a little bit about my work. Like you mentioned, I am an artist and an entrepreneur, and everything that I do falls under that umbrella of, starting with photography, um, and then going on to my own personal journey with mental health, which, led me to where I am today, doing life coaching, um, spiritual healing, which under that umbrella is, you know, involves connecting with source, spirit, and doing Reiki healing and sound healing, with just, rebalancing all those frequency energy within us and around us.
And I don't know, it's interesting with your background and everything on the camera. I'm actually seeing a cool aura around you. And this is the first time I've seen it over Zoom. And it's all like really pretty iridescent lunar colors, like what you'd find on a dragon's fly wing,
Oh,
like that cool rainbow effect, but soft.
that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. I
I think your guides wanted me to see that and share that with you because that's just amazing.
thank you. I've been told by other people before that they see my aura, but usually it's just they either see it in one color or they can't describe what it is that they saw. And so to hear that from you, that's amazing. Thank you.
You're welcome. Can you tell us a little bit about how you incorporate everything into your practice?
So, like I said, like I mentioned earlier, everything kind of starts with me and my
Mm-hmm.
own, walk of life with finding myself for the most part, finding myself going through, 16 years of mental health, only to, only to discover who I am, having to unlearn everything and then discovering who I am. And I think, I don't know if you saw on my bio, but or like on my journey um, page on my website, I talk a little bit about this how everything that I do just kind of work together. It came in a flow, and how I didn't find any of them, but they found me instead. And so with Reiki healing, I actually found Reiki healing after I started my spiritual journey, and I actually, tapped into my gift and started doing all these more in-depth self-discovery about myself. And I realized that like my energy was off the chart. Like everything was out of balance. Everywhere I go, if there was like music playing, the volume would be like going up and down. The lights would be like flickering. And as I, become more aware of that, I my guide guided me to learn how to ground my energy and allow it to be more in sync with who I am. Um, and I think a bigger part of, with energy healing is it's not so much about, you know, it's not so much about what we're doing, but it has to do more with how we're doing it, how we're approaching it, and how we're allowing it to uh, align with us, how we're,
Mm-hmm.
accepting it in a way. And so with Ricky energy, it's really about balancing everything out. And a big part of that is, letting it flow through us and not be so attached to anything. And I and then a part of that is it comes with who we allowed into our energy field and how easily we're allowing it to just detach from how easily we allow ourselves to detach from it and just in the art of letting it go and letting it flow. um I feel like that was how Reiki and energy healing found me.
Mm-hmm.
So before I actually started doing actual Reiki work, I did, my guide did want me to learn more about background, the history of it. So I did end up taking, the Reiki course and getting certified as a Reiki master. But every so now often do I really relied on what I learned. One of it is I do what I'm called to do and how my guide
Mm-hmm.
want it done. Because when I do that and I realize that when I do that and I follow what my guides are teaching me, I'm allowing myself to connect with my clients or anyone that I'm working with and to be in their energy, to be in that flow so that I can better help them and be a catalyst for them and through that way instead of being so focused on the book and what the book teaches.
Mm-hmm. And that's a beautiful thing when that happens, when we can find that flow.
It really is, yeah.
And you mentioned some of the early signs that you were getting from your guides, the lights flickering and, sounds kind of coming in and out and feeling energy and everything. Can you explain a little more about that and um, some of the ways that you've noticed that your guides were reaching out when you first started?
Oh goodness. It's a funny story because so it goes back into my childhood. So I grew up and I was born into a shamanism home. So my grandpa himself was a shaman, and but the way he practices and the way I practice shamanism is two separate things. Um, because I feel like they were leaning more towards they connect spirituality with religion, but the way I
Mm-hmm.
practice it's more free. It's more about personal development. And so I'm the way I practice is I'm free from all the rules and regulations that we as human and that we as society put into place. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so that's how I practice. But going back to my signs and how my guides try to connect with me, I think it happened really early on in my childhood, but my family no one knew about it, um, which would be shocking because you would be thinking, but your grandpa is a shaman, so how would your guys not, connect with him and let him know? Which was eye-opening to me too when I first started, because oftentimes to find out that you're gifted, you have to go through, another spiritual healer to get his confirmation or her confirmation. And so for me, it wasn't through that. For me, I just had a very strong intuitive feeling ever since I was little. I need to get a spiritual reading done on me. I'm curious to know what spirit has to say about me. And so that's what I've always told my parents. I was like, I need to get it done. And they're like, oh, you're just a kid. You don't know anything. You're just a kid. You don't know anything. So, and you're very young. Like, you don't need to know any of that, right? And so and I was, as a child, I was a very curious person. I think my soul on a so deep level. I'm naturally a very curious soul. And so because I grew up into, uh such environment so where everyone is so strong, strictly, and what they believe in and how things should be done traditionally. It in a way it forces me to kind of like bury all the questions that I have for about myself and just about the
Mhm.
world. And so for a long time, I never really spoke about that um, until after my grandpa passed away, and we found out that um, my grandpa, his guys, was gonna get passed on to one of his kids. So like my uncles or my aunts and or like my dad, and every after the amount of years that they said it's going to start getting passed on, where the next generational shaman will have to be awoken. I would question my mom and my dad out of the blue randomly. Oh, I wonder who it is. Oh, I wonder when it's going to happen because, this amount of year has passed on. And they would just yell at me. They'll be like, you're just a kid. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. Just let it be, So there's that again. Um, and so there's that part to it. And then another part to that was I have vision. I would start seeing visions. And I am one where I would never really dream ever since I was little. Um,
Mhm.
Usually when I have dream, I would just be in this dark hole, this black, this the void, just laying flat and slowly floating down with the light just, looking out down on me. Uh, and at times it would feel like I had hit the bottom where my physical body will jerk and I will be awake. And then once I go
Mhm.
back to sleep, I'll start again and I'm in the middle. I'm in a mid-air, just slowly floating down again. And so that happens. It went on for, oh my goodness, so many years ever since up until I was 21. And when I was 21, I had the chance to go study abroad. And that was when I really told myself that, you know what, start afresh. You're going to go out into the world. No one's going to know who you are. Let your child, allow your inner child to come out and play and get curious again. And so that was when I had the opportunity to finally be away from everyone that I, know. I had the chance to be away from everything that I grew up, mm, knowing. I had the opportunity to just be me.
Mhm.
And so for the first 2 months, I spent, my time just staying away from everyone. No, no connection back home unless it's like an emergency. I wouldn't come to
Mhm.
anyone back home. And I would just be me. And like, those were 2 months that I slowly just opened up to my inner child and was like, hey, are you still there? What are you curious about? Or like, what do you want to do today? And it was very hard at the beginning because I've blocked her out for so long that when I slowly just opened up the door to her, it looks like it was almost as like she just slowly peeked out and was like, can you hear me? Can I speak? It was kind of like that. And so after those 2 months of just reconnecting with her and re-familiar myself with her energy and just allowing her to, slowly come out of her comfort zone based on how comfortable she is. After that, then it was more of like, okay, let's dig deep and figure out why we're feeling this way and really reconnecting with what I wanted to do, how it made me feel, and how I want to feel. feel within that moment and going forward and having to unlearn everything that I I was conditioned to learn at such a young age. And,
Mhm.
um, oh my goodness, after having come back home, uh, like I believe it was like a month or two after I came back home. I was driving my mom somewhere, and my mom said to me, my mom's like, "Are you still my daughter? Because I feel like I don't know you anymore." So we actually sat down in the car and just have a little talk on that. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm still me, but this is now the true version of me. I'm no longer wearing the mask that I was conditioned to put on. I am no
Mhm.
longer being so tied up into, who you want me to be or how the world wants to perceive me. This is me, like raw and real.
Mhm.
So, after that, then I went into a small transitional period where I noticed that I was slowly falling back into depression and that like mental health stage where I didn't want to go back to because I've
Mhm.
come so far from it, a little bit too far to go back. And which I knew was gonna happen. But it's kinda like when you've thrown yourself into a new environment, you did the work you want to or you needed to, and you come back to the old environment where it's like very clouded, toxicated, and you're just like your brain goes, oh, what do I do now? Because you're not built to,
Mhm.
deal with that environment because you're healed in a different environment. I don't know if that makes sense. But that was me. And so there was a transitional period where I found myself slowly falling back into depression. And I told myself, I was like, that's not where we're supposed to be. And we don't want to go back into that because that's horrible. That's a horrible uh, environment to be in. It's not good for our mental health. It's not good for our well-being holistically. And so
Mhm.
that was when my guides started tapping into me. And everywhere I go, so something that I told myself was that I'm healed. I'm gonna come back home, start with where I'm currently at, and move forward from that. Unfortunately, it took me down the opposite direction, where I ended up having to reconnect with my roots.
Mhm.
And then from my roots, I ended up going down to talk about, relearning about shamanism, relearning about shamanism and like what spirituality was. And then that was when my guys started tapping into me and started really connecting with me. And because everywhere I look, it's like, um, this is how you know you're gifted, or this is how you find your master, or when the master is ready, when the student is truly ready, the master will appear. And so that was all I was seeing for like an entire half of a year. And I was like, it got to the point where I was talking to myself. I started talking to myself again. Um, when I was driving because that was the only time I would feel comfortable doing that. So I would start talking to
Mhm.
myself, and I realized that I would say this to myself: okay, if I'm gifted, I'll go on with the journey, but if I am not gifted, I'll seek professional help. And when I realized that when I said if I'm gifted, that little sentence, if I'm gifted, whenever I say that, my ear would start ringing, and the ringing will have like there will be like a nudge to it, and so I was like, okay, this is
Mhm.
getting weird. This is getting creepy, and so I ended up having to set up 3 separate appointments to get spiritual readings and spiritual cleansings done, because if I wanted to start anything, especially when it comes to my spiritual journey, I wanted a fresh start. I don't want to go in with all these baggages. And so I set up 3 different appointments. One to just learn about. my past lives, if I have any karma that I need to clear before I start my journey. And then two, to um validate or to, confirm that I am gifted. And then three, no, actually two was to get my spiritual cleansings done. So like get rid of any energy around me. And then three was to get confirmation on my gift. But the funny thing is, everything got confirmed within the first reading. So I ended up just canceling the other two readings, and I found my master afterward. And the week that I did my spiritual cleansing, because I was gonna cancel that one, but I realized that I needed to do it to help me get ready for my journey. And so I ended up getting my spiritual cleansing done. And I have to do, for the spiritual cleansing, I had to go on a 7 day cleansing restriction kind of diet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and during that week, the the cleansing during the cleansing where we were just meditating and the spiritual healer was cleansing my energy, was already having vision of my guides directing me and like showing me what my gifts were. And that night my guides came through and they finished that vision, showing me that vision. And literally the day after, I took my brother to the phone store to look at phones. And the moment we walked in, there was loud music, but the moment we walked in, the volume just went up. And
Mm.
the entire time that I was in, the store, the music just got louder and louder and louder, and the lights started flickering. And the lady, the employee there, the staff, she was like, "What do you do to, what do you do? Like, this is your doing." And I was like, "I just came in, like, I don't know what happened." And she was just like yelling to me across the room, and I couldn't really hear her. That was how loud the music was. And so she ended up having to turn it all the way down until I was able to hear her speak again. So that was like the very first few signs that appeared to me that okay, this is out of the ordinary. Um, this is imbalance. There's a lot of imbalances here. So that was the
Mm-hmm.
first actual event, and then it just kind of went through. I started my journey, and more I started getting more visions. The visions was very clear. um and I had my first trance. And when I did my first trance, the moment that the moment the portal opened up for me, I said to myself mentally, I was like, "Oh, I've done this before." And so that was very eye-opening for me, because it's like everything that I went through, whether that was in my childhood or up to that point, everything was connected. The dots were connected. And to me personally, it feels like my world is finally falling into place. And it was very freeing, because at that point I came so far from what I used to be, from where I used
Mm-hmm.
to be. And it's to the point where it's like I could care less about what anyone else said, because I feel so free. I feel so comfortable in my own skin at that point. And um and then as I continue on that journey, like I said, the energy became more imbalanced. And it was a very transformative period for me, because it was not so much about jumping timeline, but it was more about letting go and
Mm-hmm.
allowing myself to just kind of flow in that energy, and allowing that energy to just guide me to where I need to be. And
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't so much about control at that moment. Um, and after I've been through all of that, and was able to understand most of it to a certain degree, that was when my guides was like, here's Ricky. And then everywhere I look, I would see Ricky, 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 trying to, become a Ricky master, learn about Ricky. This is what Ricky is. That would be what I was seeing. And I was like, okay, I'll take that as a sign to learn it. And so that was how I got certified into, as a Ricky master.
Awesome. Yeah, our guides will never stop trying to reach out to us. And it's amazing that they actually interacted with the volume in the store to say, hey, see, we're here, it's real. Come on, pay attention. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it really was.
Have I know you mentioned you were getting the ringing in the ears. Has that progressed at all, or like change in pitch or music or anything like that?
Um, yeah, I realized that that was just my guy's way of telling me like that they're always trying to connect with me or communicate with me. Um, when before I started my spiritual journey and really tap into really connected with my guides, it would just come on and off, on and off. But
Mm-hmm.
ever since I started my spiritual journey, it has been on 24/7. Even right now, my ear is ringing, and I've come to accept that that's just my guides communicating with me. It's like I'm listening to the radio, to their radio constantly, and sometimes I'll hear it clearly if the message is important. But if they're just chatting with me or they're just chatting around me, then I just hear it as static, staticky. It's just staticky.
Okay.
So right now,
I know I used
oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was just say, right now it's the ringing is still there, but it's not as strong as before. It's more, it's more just like background noises, but it's not as bad.
Okay. Okay. I know I used to work on aircraft and go to a lot of concerts, so I have tinnitus,
Mm.
and that became a normal for me. And then when it started changing pitch and changing in tempo and whatever, just in sound, it's like that's not tinnitus, that's something else. That's when I finally started realizing, oh, they're trying to talk to me.
So, with your experience, do you hear the message clearly, or is it just staticky as well?
Um, Sometimes it's static, sometimes it sounds like the ocean, like I'm underwater. Um, Other times I'll get hints of like music, like as if I were listening to music from a different room.
Mm.
Um, and since I started really unlearning a lot and breaking a lot of cycles, I've started to actually hear my guides, their voices, or at least what sounds like their voices. Um, that started about 2 years ago. It freaked me out the first time I heard it.
That's very cool.
And yeah, it started to get a little bit easier for me when my husband started hearing them too. Because we laugh at the same joke that the guides would crack. And it's like, okay, I'm not the only one.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's been a weird roller coaster, and it sounds like yours has too.
It has been, yes.
And it sounds like, even from an early age, you are already tapped in to be the next shaman for your family anyways. It's just, it took years for everyone to realize that.
Oh, it's a journey. So I'm actually not the only shaman in the family. I have my own sets of guides, and my grandpa's sets of guides actually came to my dad. And the funny thing is, we both started our journey at the same time. And I think it was kind of weird because no one believed in me and in my journey. And even my dad, like he was already, very connected with my grandfather's guide,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like they didn't force him to awoken or to actually start his journey until I did. And I felt like
Mm.
they kind of forced my grandfather's guides to force him to start his journey as well. And so we both started at the same time, which was kind of funny.
That's good though.
Yeah.
Definitely when we have more support than we realize, it's really helpful.
Hmm.
Especially to have that validation. It's like, okay, you sense the same things I'm sensing, just in a different way. Whew.
It helped. Yes, it definitely helped to a certain degree.
Yeah. I know it helped me anyways. And I work with clients who are just starting out and still very much in the closet and in denial. And it's like, am I going crazy? Actually, no.
Hmm.
You're sensing something very normal. If you are concerned about your mental health, go get checked out. But I'm here, it's like this is normal. It's just something that's extremely downplayed in our society.
Hmm. Yeah, that very is true. And I feel like, that was um it reminds me of this conversation that I was having with my team this morning. My guys was asking me, to ask my clients for this month's program, how often do you tap into your intuition before, and you know, how do you act on it? How often do you immediately act on it before getting consultation with other people? And the more I think about it, that really is true because we're so focused on getting validated. We're so focused on, making sure that we're right, making sure that to other people we are seen as normal
Hmm.
or okay. But why do we do that? Because shouldn't our intuition alone be enough? Because despite what anyone say, or despite what they may have think, what is normal anyway, and what is right anyway, right? And so that was just, what you were talking about, how a lot of us, especially at the beginning phase, we doubt a lot and we question ourselves a lot. Um, yeah, it just reminds me of like, why do we do that? It's because no one knows us better than ourselves. So like, why are we still set on external validation? And I think
Hmm.
for my personal journey, it took me a long time to actually get out of that too.
Oh yeah, because we grow up, we want to fit in, we want to be accepted. It's normal too.
Yeah.
And it, anything that makes us feel like we're stepping out of the box and we're going to be seen as weird is like, uh-oh. So we get that whole survival thing kicking in, and that fear of the unknown. And we have to kick that to the curb too. And that can be hard.
That yes, very true. That very true. But you know what? I one thing that is very true what you said. Stepping into the unknown is always a very risky move. But to anyone who needs to hear this, for my personal journey, I feel like I've learned to enjoy the adventure of the unknown because even though it is risky, it comes at no cost. Because for no cost, we lose everything. Yes, stepping into the unknown, we will lose everything that we know and everyone that we know, but we also gain all greater things. And so it really comes at no cost. And the adventure that you go through, that you get to experience when you're in the unknown, it's beyond what it's beyond what you would deem as possible. It's like
Hmm.
it is the impossible on so many levels. It is the imperfection and so many levels. But at the end of the day, everything just becomes so perfectly perfect.
Yeah, because we come home to ourselves.
Everyone learns to go. Everyone follows their call. Everyone walks differently, but it's a phase for everyone to go through. Um, because
Yeah.
without it, we wouldn't be who we are today. So
Now, MK, you have a nonprofit that you are building up right now. Can you tell us about it?
yes, so the nonprofit is called Lenses and Perspective, and it is a nonprofit that strives to empower and educate orphans. Um, that was the original vision of it, but um, like I said earlier, in our conversation, everything for me just kind of flows together, and so I realized that the the more I learn about myself and the world, I learned that not everyone everyone has a home to go to. They don't have okay, let me rephrase that. Everyone has a home, not a home. Everyone has a house to go to, but they don't have a safe home to return to. And so the goal with the nonprofit is to create a welcoming, warm environment and to create a home where everyone can come to safely. Um, and with the vision of that is to create an environment where everyone is welcome, where everyone is inspired and empowered to just not be who they are, but to also be the change that they want to see in this world. Oftentimes, it's so
Hmm.
limited in what we can do and what we can't do. And I feel like, we're sort of afraid of making mistakes. Like you mentioned earlier about wanting to fit in. I feel like oftentimes with this, especially in this time and age, the society around us, everything is built around perfection or, doing things certain a certain way that we're so tied down to everything known before us that we're afraid to really be who we are and to really go for the change that we want to see. And so with the nonprofit, it's the mission and its vision is to be that change, you know, for the staff to be that change so that we can illuminate that light and pay forth um all the love, all the care, all the kindness that we receive while we're going through our change so that we can illuminate that out to, whoever is willing to come into that space of, lenses and perspective to see things differently
Hmm.
and to step out of, the current lenses and to just try
Hmm.
perspective so that they too can be the change that they want to see and they pay forth, the loving kindness that this world have to offer.
How can people support that?
People can support that by going onto my website. There is a tab called Lenses and Perspective, and on there are survey links for the current work that is currently being done. So if you have experience in working with foster kids or orphans, or if you have experience doing community work that involves, youth development, that involves working in the mental health field. You can always share your experience and let me know, what the current work is going on, what current work is happening, and how you continue to make that difference in the community that you're part of. And then there's also a link where you can make a donation and to contribute to, starting up the nonprofit.
Okay, that's amazing.
Yeah. That idea, it took me a long time to actually act on this idea. Actually, that idea originally came from when I was in high school, and everything, the vision and everything came to me during a very dark time when I was going through, the 16 years of mental health issue that I went through. And at that moment, it inspired me, and it came to me at a time, such a rough time, that it inspired me to want to make it happen because I thought to myself, no, if I went through so much when I grew up with a family, with a support system, imagine just how horrible things are for those who grew up with no one to support them. There was no home to return to. And then, so that was how it originally started. That's why the original vision was just for orphanage or like orphans. But like I said, as I grew and as I continued to look into uh, the area of focus I was doing with, mental health and orphanage and with orphanhood, I've learned that a lot of the time, even taking us into consideration, we all have a home, or like a house to go to, but it's not a home that we can return to. It's not a safe environment for us.
Mhm.
And so I feel like, being able to just expand that will help improve the community that we're a part of in so many ways.
That is an amazing vision. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you so much for, asking about the oftentimes, usually when I do interviews or usually when people talk to me, they don't talk about the nonprofit or they don't ask about it. Usually they just focus on what I'm currently doing with life coach and spiritual healing. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak a little bit about the nonprofit.
Oh, you're very welcome. Ah, with your business, you help people unlearn all the old programming and conditioning and explore, who they are and all their amazing gifts. Where can people find you?
So for those of you who wants to connect with me, you can find me on my website at everestmk.com.
Okay, I will definitely include that in the description of the episode. So you can just go there and click, and I'll take you right to her link. MK, thank you so much for being a guest today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nikki. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you for joining me today as we explore what makes us uniquely loved. Be sure to subscribe. More adventure awaits. For more articles and to work with me as your personal guide, go to www.techwitchlayer.com. Always remember, you are accepted, you are valid, you are loved.